Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's second video. That's going to take us to around the 8th of September, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that, the extended GFS and E7 ensemble say runs around a couple of weeks. We'll have a look at Beijing Climate Centre as well for the next 40 days. That'll take us into the beginning of October, can you believe? But to start off with, we will be talking about what's happening with what is now Hurricane Dorian in the tropical Atlantic. All eyes will be on Dorian, I think, in the days ahead. But before I do anything else, I'm going to say thank you so much and give a shout out to our latest PayPal donor. So thanks so much to Neil Smith. Neil Smith has become Gazwavi's latest PayPal donor. So thank you so much, Neil, for doing that. Neil tells me that he's looking forward to winter updates and is hoping for a little bit of snow around Christmas. Well, I'm not sure we can do that for you, Neil, but keep watching this space. Christmas updates, of course, will begin in only a couple of months' time, can you believe? That'll be the 1st of November when we begin the Christmas video countdown. Just a bit of fun. Initially anyway, but that's always the first day of November, so from the 1st of September, that's only a couple of months off, so yeah, it won't be long really before we start that countdown through to Christmas. Can't believe it's getting so late in the year, it's hard to believe it. But a big thank you to Neil for becoming Gazwavi's latest donor. If you would like to become a donor for Gazwavi's, and all you need to do is come to the Gazwavi's PayPal page, sign in to your PayPal account, then you give a donation, whatever amount you would like, to Gazwavi's, and by doing that, you're going to get a mention in the video. So say thank you so much to you for your kindness and generosity. As long as you want one, if you'd rather say anonymous, that's fine. Just leave a little note with your donation, and then we'll just say thank you to this anonymous person. You still know who you are, but you won't get your name mentioned in the videos if you don't want it. Otherwise, you can also become a patron for Gazwavi. So we've got 65 patrons now. Hello, and a big thank you to our 65 patrons. So this, you just come here, you sign up for a Patreon account, assuming you don't already have one, and then give a monthly donation to Gazwavi. This could be anything from $1 a month upwards. You pull in with all of the other patrons, and that is how you're going to become a patron of Gazwavi. So whether you do it through Patreon or PayPal, you're going to get a mention in videos, and we'll say thank you so much for doing that. Of course, you might want a mention for your website or for your business. We've certainly had a couple of those over the past year and a bit since we've been doing this, so it's whatever you want in terms of the mention, and we're perfectly happy to go to your website, give that a plug, and if it's a business, give that a little mention too. So it's however you want it. Just leave a little note when you make your donation. So a big thank you to all of the patrons and donors to Gazwavi's. You're helping us to pay for the website, gazwaviz.com, keep content online. Big thank you to all of the patrons. Big thank you to all of donors. And a special thank you to Neil Smith for becoming our latest PayPal donor. Thank you so much, Neil, for doing that. Right, so let's start off in the tropical Atlantic then. So we've still got our two areas of interest, Erin and Dorian. Let's deal with Erin first of all. That one has now gone post-tropical. It's just there off the east coast of America. Let's see what they're forecasting about Erin. So the current position of post-tropical storm Erin is just there. It's going to become a post-tropical depression just there. It heads up there, and that's pretty much going to be the end of it. It will sort of die a death in the North Atlantic. So we don't have to worry too much about now post-tropical storm Erin. However, we have got Hurricane Dorian. So yesterday, this was a tropical storm, but it did look very likely that shortly, in a day or so, it would attain hurricane status. It has done, so it is now Hurricane Dorian there in the Caribbean. Let's have a look at what they're forecasting Dorian to do. So it's going to become a major feature, a major hurricane. The current position of Dorian is just there. It's going to move sort of northwestwards in that kind of direction, so that by tomorrow it's going to be around there. It looks like it's going to give a curve to the Dominican Republic, and also shouldn't impact, or hasn't impacted, Puerto Rico too badly, but it's going to strengthen as it moves towards the Bahamas. So later tomorrow it becomes a major hurricane. Now, a major hurricane is a hurricane that is category 3 or above. We have 5 categories. Categories 1 and 2 are just regular hurricanes, and then categories 3, 4, 5 being the strongest, most devastating. They're major hurricanes. So by tomorrow afternoon, this becomes a major hurricane as it moves towards the Bahamas, and then it starts to curve ominously over towards Florida. So that's the position of what by then is a major hurricane on Sunday around the Bahamas. And as we get through to the start of next week, that's Monday, the position of Dorian on Monday just off the coast of Florida, and that's position of it at 2 a.m. on Tuesday inland in central parts of Florida. By then, because it's gone inland, it's lost some of its energy from the ocean, so it's back down to either a category 1 or category 2 hurricane. Of course, where it goes beyond that will be interesting, because if it starts to move back out into the Gulf of Mexico, then it could actually start to strengthen as it goes back over the warm waters. Of course, it might do something like that and go inland, and if it goes in that sort of direction, then it could become, again, it could strengthen back up to major hurricane status in the Gulf of Mexico. So that will be one to watch through the course of next week. But at the moment, it's all eyes going to be, I think, on the Bahamas and on Florida as well. Let's see the talking points with this. So this is the Hurricane Dorian forecast discussion updated by the National Hurricane Centre today. We won't go through all of that. There's a lot to go over there. But the key messages are that, one, the risk of dangerous storm surge and hurricane force winds later this week and this weekend continues to increase in the central and northwestern Bahamas and along the Florida east coast, although it is too soon to determine where these hazards will occur. So at the moment, it's just a general warning for that area, nothing too specific. Residents in all these areas are forecast to ensure they have their hurricane plan in place and not focus on the exact forecast track of Dorian Centre. So they're not pinning down exactly where the most devastating effects of Dorian are likely to occur at the moment. But they know it's going to be sort of Bahamas, Florida type area. Point number 2 is heavy rains are expected to occur over portions of the Bahamas, Florida, and elsewhere in the southeastern United States later this week and into early next week. And in terms of the maximum wind gusts, this is now beginning to get very close to category 4 hurricane status in around 3 to 4 days' time. So you see how these numbers are increasing. At the moment, 85 mile an hour gusts. That just gets it to category 1. But as we go through the course of tomorrow, up to around 100, 110, so strengthening towards category 2. 115, 120, that's into category 3 territory. And as we get to this on the Saffir-Simpson scale, by the way, as we get to sort of 3-4 days out, 72 and 96 hours away, we're going up to 125 miles per hour. That is still category 3, but it's only 5 miles an hour of going up to category 4. Category 4 will be 130 mile an hour gusts or above. So, and of course, this is around 3-4 days away. So this is strengthening all the time as well with this forecast. It could well be that by later today or tomorrow, this is forecast to become a category 4 hurricane, which is going to be a monster storm if it does go up to category 4. Very, very devastating. Indeed, Hurricane Dorian could be. So all eyes will be on Dorian over the next few days to see what she's going to do. But it looks as though it's getting very, very close now to going up to forecast Category 4 status. Right, coming back closer to home, and this is how things are looking for the next week to 10 days in terms of the 500 millibar high knowledge from Penn State University. Got the ECMWF here on the top, and the GFS, which we'll have a look at in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 8,000 feet is an area in the absolute high pressure, low pressure have been moved around by the jet stream. Red and orange extrapolates to high pressure, blue to low pressure. You can see what the ECM is doing in the 7 to 10 day time frame. It's got low pressure to our north and also to our northeast with a ridge in the middle of the Atlantic. That leaves us bringing in the flow of a jet, something like that. It's relatively settled, really, because we've got this high pressure in the Atlantic. But the snag with this is, and it makes it quite a difficult pattern, really, the snag is that the high pressure is just to our west, which does leave us bringing in some influence, anyway, from the jet stream. So it won't be entirely settled, and it's one of those situations where it could actually pivot to turn a little bit more unsettled than might at first be apparent from the position of the high pressure. It would also be relatively cool, of course, because the wind is coming in from the North Atlantic with jet stream and then doing something a little bit like that. The GFS is very similar. So again, we've got this ridge sitting out to the west of us. Low pressure is up to the north, and also as a trough extending through Scandinavia. Flow of a jet stream, something a little bit like that. So again, relatively settled because the Atlantic is blocked off. So we're not bringing in deep areas of low pressure storms from the Atlantic, but we do still have an influence from the Atlantic and from the jet stream, and very subtle changes will allow low pressure systems to roll in over the top of this ridge and dip down into the UK with the jet stream. So there could be some unsettled conditions at times with that pattern, and again the wind's coming from the North Atlantic, so I expect it still to be relatively cool. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles next couple of weeks. We're looking at Norwich today, so the red line here, 30-year upper air temperature average for Norwich. Actually, in the short term, temperatures are going to get a little bit of a boost tomorrow and through to the start of Saturday. Then they fall away, though. They drop away through weekend, and overall next week is looking generally quite cool. As we move through into the second week of September, start to head up towards the middle of the month, and that of course is in the extended range, this period just here. We possibly see signs of a little bit of a warming trend beginning to appear there, so maybe turning a bit warmer through the second week of September, although there's quite a lot of scatter within that. So we have got these ensemble members up here that are really quite hot. We've also got these ones down here that are quite cool. I think the trend is to lift temperatures up a little bit though. Now through the second week of September. Precipitation wise, a lot of dry weather. This is the far southeast of the country, of course, East Anglia. So a lot of dry weather coming up through the next few days. Perhaps going a bit more unsettled through the second week of September. Bear in mind, for somewhere north and west of the country, exposed more to that northwesterly wind, this would look quite a bit more unsettled than this ensemble would look quite a bit more unsettled for, let's say, somewhere in the northwest of England as opposed to somewhere in the southeast of England. Temperature anomalies from the 29th of August, 6th of September, a little bit below average, a little bit cooler than average. It's going to be a fairly cool week coming up. Precipitation anomalies, this shows the northwest-southeast split quite well, I think. So for Scotland, Northern Ireland, potentially northwest England, it's actually a little bit wetter than average for the 29th of August, 6th of September, whereas in the south, and particularly in the southeast, it's coming out with a drier than average anomaly. So that's how the GFS is looking for Sunday, bringing quite a cool northwest wind. First day of meteorological autumn, of course, on Sunday, and it will be feeling quite autumnal out there. Into the early part of next week, you see this pattern and why it is quite a difficult one to forecast for in detail, because we've got this ridge across France and into the south of the UK and extending back into the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean. But then we've got low pressure to the north of Scotland. So this low pressure, of course, has rain-bearing weather systems. It's just how much energy the ridge lets in with the trough that determines how unsettled this becomes. On the face of it, should be relatively dry down in the south and potentially a little bit unsettled, quite unsettled up in the north. But if ridge is just a little bit further south and west of that, then we will bring rain down even into southern parts of the country. That's Wednesday next week. High pressure begins to pull away into the Atlantic, allows a cold front to move in from the northwest. That gives us another push of pretty chilly air from the North Atlantic. And then into the end of next week, we keep this sort of pattern going. So low pressure is to the north. Notice quite a deep trough sinking through Scandinavia. That will bring some pretty cool air through there, I would have thought. So we've got the ridge out to our west and to our southwest. We've got low pressure up to the north, and so we keep this pattern going, potentially bringing low pressure in over the top of the high, and that would particularly affect northern parts of the country, of course. Let's have a look at day 10. So again, the ridge is centred out to west, but it is building towards us. That's bringing something a little bit more settled, perhaps, by 8th of September, but temperatures would still be quite cool. Then in the more extended range in the second week of September, no real changes actually. If anything, maybe signs that it starts getting more unsettled as we head towards the middle part of September on this GFS run as a high pressure begins to weaken and pulls away to the southwest. It possibly starts to allow low pressures to move in from the North Atlantic. So that may be turning more unsettled by mid-month. But of course, that's a very, very long way out. It's over 2 weeks away. GEM looks like that, rather cool and showery on Sunday, and then into the early part of next week, north-south split, setting up really. Into the second half of next week, the high pressure's out to west of the island, so bring down quite cool northerly winds, showers in the north and east, and then the high pressure begins to topple in over the country as we get to day 10. So the GEM actually has us under a ridge of high pressure by day 10, certainly the 8th of September. That's bringing dry, fine conditions, probably quite warm by day. With that, temperatures into low 20s, could be a little bit chilly and misty at night perhaps. It is going into the early part of autumn after all. That's how the ECM looks again, with those showery and cool northwesterly winds on Sunday. And then through the early part of next week, north-south split is setting up. High pressure should keep much of the south dry. Further north, yes, it does look more unsettled there with showers or longer spells of rain. Into middle of next week, perhaps turning a bit more unsettled across all parts of the country, but particularly again focused on the northwest. We're bringing in the wind from a northwesterly direction again through the middle part of next week, so temperatures take a bit of a dip. And then heading up to day 10, high pressure begins to assert itself in the south, so bringing dry conditions across some parts of the country, still low pressure affecting the north. The centre of the high looks like it's there, middle of the Atlantic, so if we could run on any further, I suspect this high would, this ridge, I should say, across France and southern England would pull out into the middle of the Atlantic, and low pressure up here would start to attack a little bit from the northwest perhaps. So a bit of a north-south split really for the first week to 10 days being suggested here of September. These are the options that are on the table within the ECM ensembles today. There's a lot of them, and they are all hinging on the exact placement of the ridge. This comes from the Icelandic Met Office, of course, so the 8th of September, day 10. So we have 12 members of the ECM ensembles with above average heights to our west, northwest, below average heights to our east, southeast. These are doing something a little bit like that with the flow and with the jet stream. That's a rather cool scenario. Relatively dry, high pressures out to west of us, but quite cool. 12 members of the ECM ensembles have the ridge more centrally located towards the UK. This does include the control and operational as well. That's drier and slightly warmer scenario for day 10 also. 9 have the ridge centred again over the country and to our west. That's a relatively settled and quite warm scenario too. There's 7 with a trough of below average heights centred over top of the country and a mid-Atlantic ridge. So obviously they're going to be the most unsettled, or one of the most unsettled options here. And then another 11 with below average heights to the north of Scotland. They're bringing in a flat westerly flow. They're also quite unsettled. And then finally there's 5, and these are the warmest, driest. These 5 just here have high pressure right over top of the country. They're sending the jet stream north. So that's kind of like where the GEM is, I think, at day 10. So a lot of options on the table for 10 days away, all hinging on the exact position of this ridge. It looks to me as though the ECM ensembles are favouring the ridge to be to the west or northwest of the country. So it probably stays quite cool up to day 10. How unsettled it would get remains to be seen, but probably not overly so. And then we've got the options for 2 weeks' time, which again is towards the middle of September. This is to the 13th of September. 15 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure to the south and low pressure to the north, so that's a classic north-south split type scenario. Another 15 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure over and just to the east of the country, that's a cool, unsettled scenario. 13 with high pressure almost routed over top of the country, that's a warm, dry scenario. And then 5 with a mid-Atlantic ridge and northern blocking, low pressure over to the east. So lots and lots of options on the table in 2 weeks' time. That's cool, potentially very cool and very unsettled. And then 3 with high pressure to our east and low pressure out to west. That's probably quite unsettled, but also warm. Winds will be coming up from a south-southwesterly direction. So uncertainty abounds, really, for September. It's going to be a case of taking it day by day and just seeing how things unfold. September is often a very uncertain month. And then we'll just have a look at Beijing Climate Centre. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into 10-day periods. The first 10-day period takes us from the 1st to the 10th of September. So the coming 10 days has below average heights, low pressure to the north, above average heights, high pressure to the south. So a bit of a north-south split, probably most unsettled conditions in the north, mainly dry, probably in the south temperatures, probably been on the cool side if anything. The next 10-day period is the 11th to the 20th of September. This one looks more unsettled for all of us. Below average heights are just to our west. The jet streams come southwards a little bit as well. And hints that heights are rising over the northern latitudes again. So possibly going back to some slight northern blocking hints there. For that 10-day period. And then the next 10 days, look at this, this is the 23rd to the 30th of September. This is quite a big flip on what the Beijing Climate Centre was showing a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago, Beijing Climate Centre was quite set on a relatively warm and dry September, but now really is very different. Look at this, really unsettled for the final 10 days of September with a deep trough in the 500 millibar flow just west of the UK and Ireland. Jet streams south as well, so we're on the cool side of the jet. Just looking really cool and unsettled, I think, there. Really cool and wet. Final 10 days of September. I'm into the first 10 days of October. That's how we're looking. It's days 31 to 40, really long way out. It's the 1st to the 10th of October. Still unsettled, actually. Low pressure to west-northwest, high pressure in the middle of the Atlantic, pulling quite a long way away from us. And we're doing something a little bit like that, flow with the jet. The only thing with that is that heights are rising towards Scandinavia, so possibly trying to break us out of that unsettled weather. But overall, actually now, the Beijing Climate Centre is looking very unsettled, not only for September, but even going into the start of October. So could this be a more unsettled autumn than we've had for a little while? We'll have to wait and see about that. But certainly it's a big flip from the Beijing Climate Centre for September. As I say, a couple of weeks ago, this model was forecasting relatively dry and warm conditions. But now it looks like September gets more and more unsettled as we go along. And particularly in the last 10 days of the month, could be very, very unsettled indeed if the Beijing Climate Centre is right. And of course, as with the uncertainty in the shorter range models at this time of the year, also get lots of uncertainty within the longer range models too. That's brought you up to date with your videos for today then. We'll be back tomorrow with JMA Friday and also another week to 10-day video update. Also, tomorrow we've got the last ENSO update of the year. So they're going to be put on the back burner after tomorrow for the rest of this year, and that's because winter updates begin over the weekend on Sunday, and we always look at ENSO in detail for those winter updates, so there's no point doing an ENSO update on its own, just be repeating ourselves. It's going to be a busy weekend of updates this weekend, and more about that tomorrow. But within that busy weekend of updates, yes, the first winter update will be released on Sunday, 1st of September. Right, that's all for now though, and thanks for watching.